And if any good does come, does it seem like a being like God could get that good without that evil?
Most of this video is just describing the problem of evil, but the last section brings up an interesting issue I want to probe a bit more. The author of the video first asks us to make a list of major evils, and then ask ourselves what good comes from it. But here we might stop and ask ourselves, are we really in such an epistemic position that we would be able to see all or even most of the goods that a certain evil brings about? It might be the case that God's reason for allowing some great evil doesn't come to full fruition until hundreds of years after the fact. And even then, maybe it's on the other side of the world. If this is the case, we shouldn't expect to be able to see all of God's reasons due to our limits of being finite creatures who only have a short while on this earth. The next question the author asks is if God could bring about these greater goods in any other way. And again, it doesn't seem like we're in an epistemic position to judge whether every greater good could have been achieved in any other way. To illustrate this, let's zoom in on one way in which our epistemic position might severely limit us. Many theists believe God knows all counterfactual truths regarding creaturely freedom. Or put simply, God knows what any creature would choose to do in any given situation, even if that situation never comes about. If this is the case, God might allow certain evils to come about because he knows what a person would do in response to those situations. And it may be the person's response to the bad situation that ends up bringing about the greater good in question. Now, if God does utilize his knowledge of counterfactual truths in this way, it seems unlikely that we would be able to say with any reasonable degree of confidence that God could bring about the same end through different means. And the reason for this is because we don't have all the counterfactual knowledge that God has access to. It may be that the conjunction of all counterfactual truths of creaturely freedom require that certain ends be acquired through certain means. Now, the fact that we shouldn't expect to be able to see all of God's reasons doesn't mean that we can't come to see any of them. I think we can come to see many of God's reasons through either rational reflection or maybe God just telling us himself. To give an imperfect analogy to the things I just said, maybe think about it like this. I am, to my great dismay, a novice chess player. When I sit and watch grandmasters play, there are many moves that they make that I cannot for the life of me figure out why they made them. In fact, I often see them make moves that at first glance to me seem bad. However, as the game plays out, it is usually revealed that those odd moves were not careless but carefully calculated. They were setting up the board for a much larger plan, and though I couldn't see it, those small puzzling moves are essential. The grandmasters think so much further ahead and understand the mechanics of the game so much better than I do that it really shouldn't surprise me to not always see the motives for their moves up front. Similarly, God, so to speak, sees the cosmic chessboard and sees it in a way much different than you and I, and we should be hesitant to elevate ourselves to the same epistemic position as God.